What is going on, Boiler Nation? It is Thursday, January 11th, and you are listening to another episode of the Boiler Breakdown podcast. If you've listened to us for a while, you know that I'm not the one normally talking. That's because our fearless leader, Tanner, could not make it tonight. So you've got Andrew and I here. You are stuck with us tonight. Andrew, how you doing?
Cold.
Got a lot of snow on the ground up here in Wisconsin.
So what are you guys up to so far?
I think we've got like 5 inches, and there's about a foot coming tomorrow. That's what they say. So
it was like 40 degrees here in Indy today. So
yeah, it's like 30,
but it's going to be cold starting tomorrow. But
yeah.
Oh,
doing everything we can
sorry.
to.
It says
14 inches now, starting at 5 a.m. tomorrow.
Doing all we can to avoid talking about the inevitable, which was obviously actually since last time we had an episode, which I know Andrew, you couldn't do it last week. Boilers have had 2 games. Both have been interesting in their own way. The first one being last Friday night when a top 10 matchup at Mackey Arena happened between Illinois Fighting Illini and the Boilermakers, in which the Boilers came out on top after making it incredibly interesting towards the end. Winning 83-78 after being up 15 at the half, being up as much as 21 at one point in the second half. Obviously, some things happened towards the end of that game that made it a little more interesting, and then obviously the debacle that was Tuesday night over in Lincoln, where the Boilers fell to the Cornhuskers, 88-72. So just kind of a old-fashioned butt whooping. We can start on a more cheery note, talking about the Illinois game. Tanner and I talked last week going into the game. I thought there was a lot of interesting storylines, whether or not they're actually interesting to other people. I guess remain to be seen. Obviously, you had the elephant in the room of Dre Gibbs Lawhorn coming to Mackey for the first time as a kid growing up in Lafayette who was committed to Purdue at one point. Committed to Purdue for quite a while, and obviously ended up decommitting and eventually committing to Illinois. Didn't really play a whole lot. Obviously got the booze that you would expect for a kid who was once committed to get. Didn't really do a whole lot. And then I thought there was the storyline of Lance Jones and Domask being former teammates at Southern Illinois.
How did Southern Illinois not win their conference? Yeah, like how did they not win their conference? Like he dominated. Like Purdue didn't have much of an answer for him at all.
And he's dominated multiple games too, which is crazy. And this one was probably the lesser of the 3, but then you've got obviously Luke Goody being former high school teammates for a year with Fletcher Lawyer and being AAU teammates with Caleb First, obviously being an Indiana kid. So there's a lot of things that tie these 2 programs together besides the fact that they're the closest Big Ten rival by like physical distance.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It feels like Purdue has dominated this series for the last 5 years.
In a way, there was a stretch.
It seemed like when they had Kofi, there were always battles, but I'm just remembering the good ones. It just seems like Purdue came out on top.
I think it was the COVID year where no one was allowed in. I believe Illinois came in and just absolutely wiped the floor with Purdue.
Okay.
But I think that was the last. And then we also went to Champaign and went to Champaign and we got whooped up there too. But I remember I think we scored 37 points. That was the game that I believe that was the game that Sasha got stepped on. I think.
Oh, who was that? What was that guy?
I don't remember. And I couldn't remember his name last week either. But I think that was the year. And then obviously the next year, Ivy being a sophomore, Edie being a sophomore, there was double overtime thriller in Champaign. It was on Martin Luther King Day at 1:00 p.m. As I said last week, I had posted up at our great sponsor Mad Mushroom on Purdue's campus. I watched that game there. I was totally working for sure during that time. And then they came to Mackey later in the year after the game being postponed because of Michigan's stupid COVID situation. That game got pushed back, which caused me to have to miss it because of work travel. But that was a game that Purdue kind of dominated. Ivy kind of just took over in the second half. And then last year, we didn't go to Champaign, but but we had. I mean, it was almost a carbon copy of this year's game where Purdue got up big, which is what Illinois did a lot last year. And that team was just such a train wreck when it came to personalities and all that.
It seems like they always.
They would get down. They had so many games where they would get down 10, 15 points. Look like they had not a chance in the world, and they would come storming back. Well, not the win was another thing, but I think Illinois actually came back and took the lead in last year's game, and Purdue was able to hang on and fight through, which was pretty similar to this year. There was a lot going into it. Obviously, both teams. This was the first top 10 matchup in Mackey since January 1st, 2010, when West Virginia came in, which was I was at that game, lucky enough, and that was again one of the loudest times I've ever heard Mackey. Purdue just dominated them.
That West Virginia.
Yeah, then West Virginia team went on to the Final Four along with Butler.
And Huggins.
Oh my God! Remember that press conference? Huggins was like, "We're just tired." Yeah, Purdue's not 20.
No, that's right.
We're tired.
I forgot about that.
Like, yeah, okay.
I forgot about that. So there's a lot going into the game, and then really, the game started, and from the jump, Trey Kaufman-Renn was like a man on a mission. Like I feel like I hadn't seen him play like that. I obviously missed the Maui game, so I don't know if he had played similar to that, but I feel like this was probably one of his best games.
Oh yeah, 8 of 12 and 6 of 7 from the free throw line. He only got credited with 4 rebounds, but it felt like he had 8 rebounds in the first.
I thought he had like 15 at one point. Yeah. I feel like he had like every rebound.
He tipped a bunch out and extended plays that he didn't get credit for the rebound, but ended up in Purdue's hands. I don't know. Yeah. I felt like, and I thought you got credited for those. I thought that's how Edey got to like 15, but maybe he was tipping them all to Edey. I don't know.
But he
sure felt like he was getting everything. Yeah.
Yeah. He was just outworking everybody. Illinois couldn't score for the first like 5 minutes. Purdue got up to like I feel like it was like a 10-1 lead pretty fast. They were up 47-32 at the half. First half. Let's see here. Yeah,
it looks like Purdue got up 20-4 8 minutes into the game. Illinois scored 4 points the first 7.5, 8 minutes.
Yeah. The first half Purdue shot 14 of 35 from the field, 7 of 10 from 3 though. So they shot 70% from the first half, whereas Illinois shot 11 of 31 from the field, 3 of 10 from the 3-point line. Those were pretty much flip-flop in the second half as Purdue shot 52% from the field, but 2 of 9, so only 22% from 3 in the second half, whereas Illinois shot 15 of 30 from the field, so 50%, and then they were 5 of 9 from 3 in the second half, so 55.5%. Both teams shot. Purdue was right at 80% from the free throw line. Illinois was 85, 18 of 21. But obviously the big story with Purdue was the fact that they had back-to-back missed 1-and-1s with Trey and Edey. Edey went 0 for 3 from the line. Wasn't Edey's best game. Was the first time, I guess, since Tennessee that he has been in foul trouble, serious foul trouble.
Yeah, he
only played like 10 minutes the first half. 23 minutes total. And even at that point, I think when he went out, Illinois went on a run a little bit and got it to like 4 maybe.
It was like 4, yeah. And then all of a sudden Purdue pushed it to 15.
Yeah,
without Edey on the floor. Obviously you want National Player of the Year out there, but they played pretty well without him. I didn't notice it as much in the Illinois game because Purdue was hitting threes and were up comfortably until the last 4 minutes. But Edey only got 5 shots. And then I noticed it more at the Nebraska game where I think we were texting about the whole time. I was like, it was just, we can talk about that later, but it just lack of usage almost. Like obviously teams are game planning to take him away and make everybody else beat him. So obviously coaches know who Zach Edey is now.
Right.
But still, like, I don't know. Like now, like it just seems way more out looking at after watching Nebraska. It's like he's got to get the ball. Like he's got to touch the ball like every time down.
100%, yeah. Purdue, from a defensive standpoint, I thought was interesting because they put Edey on Illinois' point guard, Ty Rogers, and gave him the no gel Eastern treatment of shoot it, man. Because I think he shot 1 3-pointer his entire career and missed it, or something. It was something like that. He hasn't shot one all year. So they stuck Edey. Essentially, he was just like a one-man zone, just kind of parked his big butt in the paint and didn't move.
So I'm just looking for his career. He has not made a 3.
Yeah,
And he shot
38% from the free throw line last year. So
I don't remember him. I just don't remember him having that rough. But yeah, that was huge. It'll be interesting to see moving forward. Like, even like tonight, does Michigan State do that to them as well when they play to get to each other tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern?
Maybe I don't
watch enough of like other Big Ten teams. It seems like Painter has a couple of those. Because wasn't it which one of Fran's kids did Purdue do that to at Iowa? And then he always would shoot like 5 threes, and he'd go 0 for 5.
I think it was Connor.
Connor, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that sounds right. Purdue would like beg him to shoot, and he made like one in his like time at Purdue.
Yeah, his career against Purdue was like he had to have been sub 20%. Like he is not afraid to chuck it either. Yeah, who he's now dating Caitlin Clark, who's an incredible shooter. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I mean, it was kind of a. Purdue got up big in the second half. I feel like it was like that 10-minute marker was like, a lot of people were like, and I had, obviously we have a good Illinois friend who was texting, and I have some coworkers who were big Illinois fans, like, oh, this game's over. And I'm like, you not remember last year's game? Like, obviously I think, Purdue's better, but so is Illinois, I think, even without Terrence Shannon. And sure enough, Illinois kind of made a little run. Purdue got a little lackadaisical. I felt like there's a stretch where like Braden had like 2 bad turnovers in a row. There was one where I think he wanted Trey to do something, and Trey didn't. I think Trey thought he was going to shoot, but he didn't. He was going to pass the Trey, and it was a turnover. And then there was one time I think Braden like almost went up to shoot and then passed it, and it was Caleb wasn't even looking because he thought he was shooting, so it just went through out of bounds. So that happened, and then obviously Illinois dumbass just kind of played booty ball and dominated for. I mean, there was a stretch where like they made every single shot they took down the stretch. Ethan Morgan came with a big steal down the stretch as well, and then obviously the big play was when Lance Jones was called for a flagrant. I still don't know how that was a flagrant because it wasn't even called a foul on the floor. Mason.
The box out.
Coleman Hawkins.
Coleman Hawkins.
Because my TV was down because my wife was on the phone, so I was trying not to be loud, so I didn't really hear what was going on. But I know Coleman Hawkins knocked the ball out of Mason's hands, and that's what I thought they were looking. I don't know if they were looking at that, or if they actually were looking at the foul. But the fact that because you can't go to the monitor and then just call a common foul. So the only way you can just upgrade it to a flagrant. That's what they did.
I get it's a player safety thing, but also I have no idea what Lance Jones is supposed to do there. So he's boxing out, and the guy jumps over him.
Right, and Robbie Hummel on his Goodman and Hummel podcast this week made a good point because he had like back-to-back. I mean, this is now actually including last night or Tuesday nights. Purdue's had 3 games in a row with a player getting a flagrant foul, and Robbie had that in terms of calling games where he had like there was a Michigan State game he was calling, the Purdue Illinois game, and there was one other game. Oh, it was Kansas, the Kansas game.
IU?
No, it was Kansas TCU, where TCU got screwed because Hunter drew a flagrant foul, and it completely changed the game. And Robbie kind of went off about just like, yes, he understands this for player safety, but also like it's getting a little out of control. Like it's a physical game. I mean, like for Lance, he was blocking out a guy who was like 6'6", 6'8", maybe even 6'10", and Lance is 6 foot. So it's like he's throwing all of his weight into this dude just trying to survive. That's what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
And then
it's like
this guy jumps. Yeah, this guy jumps.
He's got to fall over.
His momentum is just carrying him backwards. Yeah. Like, so that was really frustrating.
If they had called it a foul on the floor,
I would have left it as is.
I would have been like, I'm like, that's stupid, but I guess like, okay,
I get it.
Flagrant is just absolutely ridiculous.
He undercut him, whatever. Especially in the fact earlier in the game where Mason went for a rebound, was airborne, and an Illinois guy clearly like extended his arm and pushed him, and they reviewed that, and it was nothing. So it's like the fact that was nothing. But
and then it gets to they mentioned Gillis's flagrant. I mean, maybe I didn't. I was working and had it up like on my like computer, and I wasn't watching or listening that much. I know I could see like Gillis did like go into him a little bit, still like stupid.
Yeah, it's they gotta do something because I feel like we're just seeing tons of flagrants that are
not going not going Purdue's way, first of all, but also like,
I just think just in basketball in general, like in college basketball in general, we're seeing a ton that are like that are pretty suspect.
And then Edey gets like 2-hand pushed and nothing, and they don't even call it.
Right.
Foul.
Yeah.
Like
he's getting 2 hands in the back,
touchy.
or
it's like too touchy with the flagrants, and then you've got the Purdue Tennessee game where it's basically like football,
right.
and like they're not calling anything. It's like it's not a player safety thing, I guess. If you're like, oh, we're gonna get it out of the game, but then we're gonna let you beat up on everybody.
Right.
Other times.
Yeah. Or like I saw people in message boards last night saying there was obviously Purdue losing to Nebraska. Houston loses the same night as Purdue, so 1-2 go down. Then last night, number 3 Kansas goes down. Number 5, who's number 5? Somebody went down as well.
Not UConn.
No, UConn's 4. I'm totally blanking.
No.
I am totally blanking.
Hold on.
But people are saying like all those games weren't nearly as physical as the Nebraska game. But nevertheless, Purdue got the win on Friday, and what was making me mad, because obviously the ending wasn't great on Purdue side, but I think I thought Brian said it pretty well that was a 10-point game disguised as a 5-point game because of how the last minute ended.
Yeah, and then you've got
Hawkins 3 that put it to 3. Right? That was when they cut it with like 12 seconds left, when Purdue honestly should have had a shot clock violation.
Yeah.
That they let it run
out, and then it ends up with a run out 3 that had they stopped, Purdue sets the defense, and then maybe they take a 3, but it's not that quickly, and maybe it's not as, I don't know.
Yeah, but I feel like the narrative after the game was like, I mean, Purdue had won, just being a top 10 team, at home. Obviously, yes, they're without their best player, but they've proven to be. I mean, so far without them, they've been proven to still be pretty good. I feel like
it was also like
Edey's like worst game of the season too.
Yeah. The fact that the national player of the year. I mean, people always say Purdue isn't good without Edey. Well, first,
they got up 20. Yeah, they got up 20 without him basically.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he had 10
and 15, which is a horrible game.
Yeah, it was the worst game of the season, and it was still a double. And he was 5 for 5 from the field. He was perfect.
5 of 5, 0 of 3 from the free throw line, though. Yeah.
That was really probably the only thing you could have taken away from it. The fact, I mean, for one, you look at Trakoff and Lance Jones, both are 60% or worse free throw shooters, and they went 13 for 14 between the two. So
didn't miss.
Kaufman didn't miss until the last minute. So I mean, it was
big
at the time when he made 6 in a row.
Only 1-1 miss.
And I think he missed twice, because didn't they have
there's a lane violation?
Yeah, and he missed again. Yep.
Yeah. So when they had, I was like, okay, he'll be fine now. He's got gets another chance. He got it and he missed it. I'm like, well, apparently not. And then shout out to, because it was that, and then Domask was doing really well towards the end, and then thankfully I think Fletcher hit 2 free throws at the end. His only 2 free throws of the game. To kind of get us up 6, which helped, or maybe get us up 5. So that ended. And then obviously Tuesday matchup with Nebraska came in. Here that Pinnacle Bank's pretty awesome, even without students, even for a team that's pretty mediocre, really.
Even though Robbie
was caught on the hot make before the game, then he was pretty disappointing crowd, and then it filled in late, I guess. But
obviously a lot of weather had to do that. Purdue had to go out there a couple days early, and Purdue just came out kind of flat. I missed the very beginning because my wife was watching the end of the IU game right before it. Purdue got first play. Purdue got the ball and essentially just threw it right out of bounds to start the game. Kind of probably
right off
set the tone.
Right off.
Which was one of our 14 turnovers for the game.
Sorry, 14
was the wrong number. Yeah.
And
then it was really slow start, and then I think they hit. I don't know. I think everyone was putting Dalton down, so I missed it. But I was getting the text as well from you and Tanner. I think when we went to put Dalton down, I think Purdue was down 10. I think I came back out and they were only down 1 or something. But then it seemed like whenever Purdue cut it back to 1 or tied, Nebraska would go on an 8-0 run in about 42 seconds.
Yeah, it felt like even in the first second, Nebraska got up, and then Purdue clawed their way back and kind of, I don't know if they took the lead.
That's what I was just going to look. In the first half, they did. They led for a decent amount of the first half, actually.
Yeah, there's only 2 lead changes.
Oh, yeah.
Because once Purdue got the lead, Nebraska took it right back. And yeah, Purdue kind of just like, as they've kind of have been prone to do, they had a couple turnovers that were not great. That I've always heard, it's not all turnovers are created equal. It's, a charge is not as much different than a pick six turnover.
Yeah.
And Nebraska had a couple of those, coupled with Tyga nailing the three. So it was like it went from Purdue being up 2 or maybe down like 1 or 2 to all of a sudden they're down 10. Then they found themselves. Go ahead.
Well, then Purdue went like 6 minutes without scoring. So they didn't. So they went up 30-28 with 3.5 minutes to go in the first half, and then it stayed.
We did score the rest of the half.
Yeah, Purdue scored their first bucket with 18 minutes and 20 seconds left in the second half.
Our friend Cameron Day. He said this earlier, but I assume he's talking about the Nebraska game. It was both like a bunch of full of Cam Allen. Can't disagree. Purdue was down 11 at half. Really nothing was going right. Edey had some foul trouble again.
Pretty weak fouls, if I remember.
Yeah, there's one. He got on an offensive rebound that I feel like he does every single time, and it's hardly ever called. And then for some reason that one was. And then the second half started. Purdue kind of started pretty good. You saw. I didn't see the start, so I assumed these were lineup changes. But he started Cam Heide and Mason Gillis in the second half.
Yep.
Which I thought was good because Cam had played pretty solid first half, and then Gillis was the only reason why we weren't down 20.
Yeah, because he hit 4 threes, I think, right?
Yeah.
3 or 4 threes. Yeah, he hit 5. He was 5 of 10 from 3 on the game, and I think he hit 4 of 8 in the first
3
half.
3 or 4, yeah.
They were
Edey wasn't getting touches, or they were doing a good job of kind of almost.
They were triple teaming him. Every time he had 2 guys on, and every time he caught it, they had a third guy that would collapse. And it was good defense, but still, I don't know.
Yeah.
Then Purdue started chucking. Purdue shot 33 threes.
Yeah, they shot pretty well. 39%. Usually if you ask
me, isn't bad.
30%, I'll take it. But just in context, you look at Purdue's a team that shoots a lot of free throws, and they shot 15, which isn't. It's below their average. It's mostly because obviously they're not getting the ball down low. Edey couldn't get the ball, or he was out.
Nebraska shot 19. Has Purdue had more? Has there been any other game, I guess, where an opponent has shot more free throws than Purdue?
I'm sure there's been a couple times this year, maybe in maybe Tennessee. I'm not sure.
I guess not even complaining about the refs and saying that. It was more of just look at the Purdue took 33 threes. It was
that was
the Alabama game
when
Alabama was complaining that Purdue shot so many more free throws. It's well, you took 45 3-pointers.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to get to the line when you don't drive. I said Purdue had 14 turnovers for the game, which isn't great, but it's not the worst we've had.
But like you said, they happened at horrible times.
Horrible times, yeah. Because Purdue kind of came out in the second half, and by the 14-minute mark, had cut the lead to 1, which is awesome. Yep. I thought, this is here we go. They're fooling around the first half.
Yeah, figured it out. Yeah, settled in. Yeah.
Which I feel like I feel like I curse this because in the Northwestern game when Purdue got to overtime, I think I tweeted something like, "All right, playtime's over." And we lost, and then we cut it to 1, and I said, "Okay, playtime's over." So I'm gonna stop tweeting that because I'll take chest tap. That was my bad. I'll take the L on that one. But as Nebraska did, as soon as Purdue got to 1, they just again, it was all of a sudden boom, 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 couple threes, couple turnovers by Purdue, and credit to Nebraska, they were white hot. I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of wide open threes for them to take. There was a couple times Tominaga had Cam Heide, had Lance Jones in his shorts.
Yeah.
And he was just, I love the kid. He's just, as Newbert says, he's the most dangerous player in the Big Ten, which I definitely agree because he is an absolute game wrecker. If he's on, watch out. I saw him do it to Indiana, a couple nights before where he was just unconscious. And then there was that corner there was a couple of corners not mattering, but I swear the guy's foot was on the line. And then
I thought the same. I thought there was
at least 2.
There was one that I was the guy was 3 feet away, and he didn't raise up his hand. They were supposed to ignite. Yeah. When it's a 3, they put it up right away, right?
Yes.
He didn't. Yes. The guy was 3 feet away.
Either they don't, they do the 3, they don't, which means a 2, or they'll signal we're.
He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything. So I'm like, that's a 2. And then the scoreboard put it up at 3, and I'm like, okay, they have to review that one.
Yeah, and there was like a timeout, and then I was like, okay, they're gonna have to review it. And they came back and nothing. They like didn't
or maybe they did, and then the announcers didn't tell us. I don't know. But
that's true. Yeah, that corner they and the thing is too, like all their threes, like they were just absolute money. There was no like rattling them home or anything like that. Like it was just, I feel like the hoop was 15 feet wide. You had that guy 53. I love his hustle. He's got the huge hair. He hits a 3, which I'm pretty sure in the end game I didn't see him shoot once, aside from free throws, which he was awful at. So I thought there's no way this guy can shoot. I think he shoots like 25%. He nailed a 3, which kind of spelled trouble for Purdue. But yeah, in the end, they shoot
14 of 23.
14 of 23 for 60. Was that
61%?
Yep.
So
it's hard to be a team when they do that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think someone posted online that like you look through everybody. I don't think it was everybody. All of the 8 players. So there's 7 guys that hit a 3 for Nebraska. All of them. Obviously, when you shoot 61% of the team, but all of them were above their season percentage.
Average.
And I was comparing that was at the Butler-Marquette game last night. I was telling you this before. Marquette went 5 of 31 from 3, and like they were pretty open. And I've only really watched Marquette when Purdue played them. I was like, I think they can't be that bad of a shooting team. So I looked it up, and they had Tyler Kolek, probably All-American.
Oh, Marquette's candidate. 5th. That's the team who lost. Marquette. They're 5th.
No, they're 11th. They're 11th.
Oh, that's right. You're right. My bad.
Yeah, it was Tennessee. Tennessee was 5. They lost.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but so like you look at that. So Tyler Kolek, who shoots 38%, and then Cam Jones, who shoots 37% or something. They won a combined 1 for 17 at home last night against Butler. Great for Butler. So that's why Butler won by 7. But just polar opposite.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just watching the Nebraska game where they couldn't miss and everybody was way above their averages. Obviously, if you're 61%, then you go the polar opposite where Marquette shoots 16%, way under season averages, and then they go, evens out, I guess. But it's stupid.
Yeah, that masked kid, number 51, who had the Kleenex in his nose. He busted his face on Fletcher Lawyer's face. So he was a killer. They couldn't really stop him.
I don't think he was more in the first half. Did he do that much in the second half? I know he missed a couple threes in the second half. I think he hit 2.
I don't remember.
I thought they were on the first half.
I feel like everybody did something.
Yeah, it felt like Tamanaga took over more in the second half, and that mask was.
So did C.J. Wilcher, who hasn't really done much against Purdue in his career. He was 4 or 5. Or sorry, he was 4 or 5 from the field, 3 or 4 from 3, 5 or 5 from the line for 16 points. He played 19 minutes. It was just one of those nights for Purdue. Purdue had 1 fast break point. I'm not sure how that's possible, considering
missed a free throw. Must have been
which I guess I didn't realize that free throws were considered fast break points. If you get
I know.
Fast break.
Yeah,
they had 13. Purdue had 24 bench points, and that was mostly because Mason Gillis. Purdue had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in double figures. Nebraska only had 4.
As much as Purdue struggled. They shot 39% from 3. If Nebraska shoots
average, I think someone literally said if they shoot their average for how many attempts they average a game, that would have been 6 less makes, which is 18 points, which is exactly it was 18 points, which there's the game. There's some rotations. Obviously, there were issues, but in the grand scheme of things, not say grand scheme of things, but it got to the point I wasn't super mad by the end because it was just Northwestern game I was irate just because of how Purdue lost it. But this is kind of one of those games where it was just when Tominaga's hitting step back threes with a guy with 6'2" guy in his face, it's one thing. It's I can't really be too mad at that because it's just the guy's just on a heater. But what makes me the most mad is just because now Purdue's got 2 losses in the Big Ten. And they're not against
Michigan State,
Illinois,
Wisconsin.
I think Nebraska now. I've watched them a couple times now. I think they could be a legit tourney team. They've got. Usually when we think of Fred Hoiberg teams, it's a whole new roster every single year. It's what he did, but he's got a lot of guys back from last year, so he's got some continuity plus some new guys. And I think they could be, they've got a great home atmosphere. And the Big Ten as a whole is just pretty mediocre. I think
that's why I wouldn't be as worried about the Big Ten, just because I think the road is just going to get so brutal for everyone.
I hope. You look at, with the Illinois game, that gave them their first loss, which was proved tied with them for like second place because Wisconsin had lost, and then Wisconsin goes on the road to Ohio State last night, and just takes care of business, which is really frustrating because now
they were down though, right? Didn't Ohio State
they were down.
That one?
Yeah, and then they just kind of took over in the second half, and then they pulled away late. But I know, like Wisconsin, they don't have to play at Illinois, so they avoid that tough place to play. I know they play, obviously Purdue gets them twice. They I think they get Indiana twice. I don't know about Michigan State, but you just always hear,
this once they play. So Purdue, they play at Purdue on March 10th.
It's senior day.
Their last game of the
year.
Yeah.
So
if it'll matter, maybe it doesn't matter.
Hopefully, it doesn't matter because Purdue's already won it. But
yeah, the remaining road games are not super challenging. I'd say at Penn State, at Minnesota, at Nebraska, at Michigan, at Rutgers, at Iowa, at IU, at Purdue.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it's. I feel like every year, people make assumptions like from the first thing, first couple games. I mean, even last year, like for the first handful of games, everyone's like, "Oh, Purdue's going to win this game, win this conference by." They're going to win it by mid-February, and it obviously came down to the last couple games. But I mean, it's obviously the Big Ten is always a dogfight. I'm not even sure what. There's a game going on right now between two stellar programs.
Michigan,
it's actually okay. It's they're up. Michigan's up 43-42. They were up like 12. Which Michigan?
Yeah, Maryland's. They were up 12 at halftime, and Maryland's cut it to now 2. So for me.
Sidebar, just talking about laughing at Michigan because I can't laugh at their football program because they just won national championship, which was not fun to watch. But their basketball program, I don't understand what's going on at all with anything. I mean, you start off with obviously there was the whole
Juwan Howard
heart surgery, which obviously take his time away, but then like he was on the bench but not coaching, which I didn't understand. It's like if
forgot about that.
Yeah, you don't want to be around the atmosphere because it's probably putting too much stress on your heart that you just had surgery on. But then he came back to coach. But then they had a game against Penn State in the Palestra over the weekend in which he just said, Phil Martelli, you can coach this game, which I've never seen before in my life.
And there was the incident before that about with like him, like the rumors of him punching or getting in the strength coach's face or something.
He still isn't back with the program. I think he hasn't come back since then. The guy's also like 6'8", so like he's probably staring Juwan in the face, like in the eye. Like he's not a small dude. There was that whole thing because people thought like, oh, Juwan's done, like he's fired.
Yeah.
It comes out yesterday that Doug McDaniel, their star freshman point guard, is not playing the next 6 road games only.
Yeah.
But he's playing at home, supposedly. That's why.
And he announced it. Like it wasn't Michigan. He posted it, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like Doug announces that he's suspended for 6 road games. So like,
yes, which I don't was like. Is this
the only thing I could think of was like maybe they're actually. But I would think it would come from the university of like, okay, he's missing too much class or something. Like you don't get
because there was a rumor that he didn't make grades. Yeah, there's a rumor that he didn't make grades the first semester that he was going to be done completely because like there was that rumor and then they lost a game at home. It was like 2 games prior, I think, to the Palestra game. It was like a close game and they lost, and like he like was like crying, and people were like, "Oh, this that means maybe it's his last game in Michigan because he'll probably jump pro." But now he's still playing. I don't know. I was just like, when I saw he wasn't doing it on the road, I was like, can he not leave the state of Michigan? It's just like a court order.
Yeah, that was the other thing I thought of too. I'm like, maybe he's like on house arrest. He can't go more than like 500 feet from his house or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was the only thing I thought of. I was like, would slightly make sense, but also wouldn't be like totally. But also, why wouldn't the university like announce this and make it like somewhat more like understandable versus? I don't know. Or maybe it's like a maturity thing. And they're like, we can't trust you like away from your home where you're going to be supervised. I have no idea. Super weird.
Yeah.
And dumb.
But as it stands now, Purdue is 3-2 in the Big Ten. So they've played 5 games, which means the Big Ten season is a quarter of the way done. There's still quite a few teams that still have to play their 5th game. Overall, as it stands right now, what are your overall thoughts about the Big Ten as a whole?
I think it's going to be the road is just going to eat people up. I think. I don't know. I think it's just going to be a battle. I think with the top, I think you asked 2 weeks ago, it was like Purdue, Illinois, and everybody else, and now it still kind of seems like it's Purdue, Illinois, and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And everybody else, but that everybody else is pretty all lumped together and
interchangeable.
Outside of Maryland, that looks just like that's from what I've seen. Maryland just looks like totally inept at scoring the basketball.
Which it's wild. I don't get it. Looking at the standings right now, so you've got Wisconsin's in first at 4-0. Then you've got two teams tied for second. They've only played 4 games as well. You got Minnesota and Northwestern at 3-1. Illinois is 2-1, which they played tonight against Michigan State. Then you've got 3 teams with 2 losses. You've got Nebraska, Purdue, and Indiana all at 3-2. Nebraska's 13-3 on the season though, so I mean that obviously
who they played.
Right. You got 3 teams with 3 everybody else has 3 losses. You got Penn State 2-3, Ohio State 2-3, and then the rest of the teams are all 1-3. Michigan, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan State, and Rutgers are all 1-3. I think going on into Tuesday, I saw a stat that Big Ten teams in conference play on the road, they were 6-20.
I thought it was 6-24 or something.
Well, then that night, Iowa and Purdue both lost on the road, so then went to 6-22. But then I think yesterday, both road teams won, so now it's 8-22. Northwestern won at Penn State, Wisconsin won at Ohio State. You have anything else? I mean, we can kind of start picking some games and wrapping this thing up.
Sure, I'm just laughing. I'm just laughing at the tweet Tanner sent. I don't know, from our buddy Dan Dockich.
Oh, jeez.
I'm just laughing. The Maryland-Michigan basketball game is the worst Big Ten basketball game I've ever watched in terms of effort. Speaking of Dan Dockich, hilarious, man. He's going off the deep end.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on there. He went absolutely off after Indiana lost to Nebraska, which Indiana bounced back and beat Ohio State at
16.
Home.
But hey, they lost by 16 as well, yeah.
So we're time is a flat circle.
Same. Cameron's,
and then Indiana just got absolutely embarrassed at Rutgers the other night, just from an effort standpoint, and Rutgers was 0-3 going into the game, and they kind of manhandled them towards the end. Our boy Xavier Johnson got kicked out of the game for a repeat offense of violating a man's privacy. Any other thoughts before we start picking games? Before we kind of start wrapping this thing up?
No. Just curious.
I guess I have a question.
Back.
Yeah, which actually what's interesting, I thought about this, which I don't necessarily like. So Purdue plays Penn State on Saturday, and then we have a visit. This is kind of where I get worried. This is where I get worried. Purdue's lost 2 road games. I mean, granted, it's the road, but it's going back. It's Northwestern and Nebraska, which I guess right now, they're not terrible. We'll see where things end up. But it's you still have road games at IU, at Illinois, at Wisconsin. Even at Michigan. I don't know if we play at Michigan or not. I can't remember. Maybe we do. So it's you gotta. if Purdue wants to win the Big Ten, which I know they do, you've got a lot of still tough road games. Which it feels like Purdue always plays up to their competition, and maybe sometimes even down. So hopefully,
and I think it's more of what's Saturday and Tuesday look like as far as this team gonna bounce back. I mean, they've got a lot more experience, so theoretically, they shouldn't get rattled, and they should kind of learn from it. I was also kind of thinking, Purdue is also the critique, I guess, under Painter is then they peak early, like last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they blew everybody out, kind of came out of nowhere in November,
Which is
December.
Weird because I feel like 10 years ago it was the complete opposite. It was Purdue struggled early because you had the baby boilers who would lose to Wofford at home, and then all of a sudden they would then win the Big Ten, or the Dakota Matthias Vince Edwards teams where it's again they would lost early and then they went on would win 17 in a row going into the tournament. So it's but then you have this last couple of years. Yeah, it's something's kind of it's flipped back.
Yeah, so it's kind of I'm almost okay, you've had a couple losses in early January, and there's still a lot of time left, and it's still you still have Zach Edey, National Player of the Year, having his borderline two kind of bad games for him.
Yeah.
And Braden Smith has kind of struggled. It seems definitely Nebraska was a bad game for Braden Smith. I mean, Fletcher Lawyer, we were texting about it the whole game. He looked terrible against Nebraska, and like they're Purdue's three most important players, and like okay, Edey has a below average game, and Braden and Fletcher were fairly bad, honestly, or bad for their stance. Like it just can't happen. You can't have all three of them.
Yeah,
like
you can't have
along with Nebraska getting super hot. Like
right. Yeah, it was a perfect storm.
So I'm not like I think at the Tuesday night I think pretty like oh gosh like the season's over
because that's a lot of people as people do whenever Purdue loses to an inferior team. It all comes back to this is exactly what FDU did to Purdue. This is exactly it reminds me of the FDU game, which I don't think that game reminded me of the FDU just because Purdue shot pretty well. I mean there was a span in the first half, maybe even the second half, where I saw some flashes of like guys didn't want to shoot.
Yeah, same. Yep.
So that's where I was a little worried. I was just like a couple times because like Mason is so good at when he catches and shoots. And there were a couple times he would catch it, pump fake, and then reload and then shoot, and he missed it. It's like that's not it's not his. That's not. I'd love to see the stats on when he just catch and shoot versus when he has to reload. I feel like
and they Fletcher's the only one I can remember think of where they have it, they pump, the guy blows by, he doesn't dribble and like hits it. Most feels like 95% of the time when they do that they miss because it's like out of rhythm and like it should be like a practice jump shot, but still. The part I agree. I don't think it was the same as Farley Dickinson.
No,
but the part that made it seem somewhat was it just like Edey. I know he ended up with 10 shots. I don't know how. That must have been like putbacks and stuff. It just seemed like they weren't getting the ball to Edey like that when he was in, which is what they did to Farley Dickinson. But that's what I was thinking the whole time watching that game with last year. Was like just give the ball to Edey. Like he's got a foot on everybody who's guarding him. Yeah, he's got 3 of them, but he just go up. He's gonna make some of them. He should get fouled like just about every time.
And if he misses, they've got 3 guys around him, so just crash the boards or something.
And it just seemed like they couldn't get it to him. They wouldn't get into him, or they did, and he was way far away. And then he tried to pass out of it, and it was just like, go get a charge. If Edey steps on someone and gets a charge, I'd almost be like okay with it because it's like aggressive.
Maybe the guy will think twice. Yeah, I mean, I feel like if he lowers his shoulder and just like puts a guy in the third row, it's okay. Maybe he won't do that again.
I don't know.
Maybe the guy will think twice and back up. But
make him call it.
Yeah,
instead of like fading away. Like I feel like he was fading away quite a bit against Nebraska too. I mean, obviously getting triple teamed and pushed back and bumped and hammered, but still, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was a few game just from the fact that it wasn't like Purdue wasn't struggling to score a lot. I mean, they scored 72 points. Shot 39% from 3. Like if you look at, I mean, like which I always hate people who do this, but like when you look at the box score, like you look at it, like Purdue, okay, again they shot okay from the field, they shot 11-15 from the free throw line, all that kind of stuff. Like I mean, 14 turnovers isn't great, but it's not the worst they've ever had.
They've had worse. Yeah, they've had worse.
But then you see the score and you're like, holy crap, they lost by 16. But I don't know.
Yeah,
but. We'll see, because actually going back to what I was started saying is last year Purdue played Penn State before going to Indiana because that was a game where Mason broke Robbie's 3-point record. So I was like, oh sweet, we're gonna be locked and loaded for Bloomington, and then they found themselves down 15 at half. So that didn't happen this year. But looking ahead to the Big Ten this week and going into next week, who do you got for the Maryland-Michigan game that's going to end in about it's got 7 minutes left in the game.
Maryland, they're on a roll.
Yep. And then 2 of our most favorite programs, Michigan State's at Illinois, 9 o'clock Eastern on FS1. Illinois is 3.5-point favorites.
I think Illinois rolls.
Illinois blows them out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night, Fox Sports 1, 6:30 Eastern, you have the Minnesota Golden Gophers traveling down to Bloomington to face the Hoosiers.
IU.
I think Indiana rolls in that one.
Just give me the home team pretty much against everybody.
Then Friday night as well, 9:30 BTN, Nebraska at Iowa.
I could see Nebraska winning that just because I don't know, just because of coming off of their best game of the season.
Do they fall flat because they're hungover?
Actually, you're right. Never mind. They're going to shoot one. They're going to go 1 for 25 from 3.
Yep. Yeah. Tominaga 0 for 7.
Yeah. I know he probably shoots a ton. He's a 38% 3-point shooter. I'm sure that's on high volume, but it's not like he's not like shooting 50% on the season.
No.
He just happened to shoot 75% against Purdue.
It's when he's on, it's like because he just ignites everything. He starts playing NBA Jam and he's literally on fire. we'll save Saturday for a second. We got Northwestern at Wisconsin on Saturday, noon Eastern, BTN.
I'm just assuming Wisconsin wins by 15. I think Wisconsin.
They're pretty athletic. The AJ Storr, their transfer from St. John's, he's pretty good.
I think Northwestern's not very good. I think they're frauds. 3-1 in the Big Ten. I think that's going to end up being not a good loss. I don't know. Maybe I don't.
Yeah, I'd agree. Then Purdue's game against Penn State. The Lions travel to West Lafayette, 2:15 Eastern on BTN. Score prediction: MVP.
Edey revenge game. I think he goes 20-20. I think he gets 20 boards.
Oh, okay.
Dominate. That's my bold take. I think
just to be different, and just because I love the kid, I know he gets a lot of flack, which sometimes a lot of it's warranted because his defense is awful at times. But I think Fletcher Lawyer has a bounce back game.
You don't think Heidi's gonna start? I don't think so.
I mean, if when it happens, it always happens after a loss. But no, he didn't change the lineup after the Northwestern game.
I don't think he's not. I
don't think he will. Just because, he did it at half. The only reason I paused there is because he did it at halftime. So, that's obviously rewarding the guys who played well. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna say Lawyer goes.
I think it was more matchups too, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Lawyer goes 4 of 9 from 3, and Purdue wins by
4 of 9. He's gonna shoot 9 threes.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm feeling it. I think Purdue wins 80-61.
80-61. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Sunday, we've got Rutgers at Michigan State.
I think Michigan State wins that one.
This is also at noon Eastern.
Yeah, give me the home game. Give me the home team.
God, this game's going to be a blowout.
Following
that game, Maryland at Illinois.
Illinois is going to win by 25, at least.
Yep, I agree with you. There's our games Monday. Okay. Good football game rivalry. Monday night, it's Martin Luther King Day. That's why. Okay. I was like, why is this game at noon? Noon Eastern on Monday. First time in 2 years that Purdue has not played on this day. Ohio State at Michigan.
Maybe Ohio. I don't know. I don't
I'm take Ohio State this one.
Yeah, I think Ohio State.
I think Michigan sucks.
There's only a handful of teams I'll pick to lose at home. Michigan's one of them. Maryland's one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 o'clock Eastern on Big Ten Network. Iowa at Minnesota.
I think Minnesota wins at home.
I think, I watched Minnesota the other night. And I kind of like Minnesota team.
Ben Johnson getting it going.
Yeah. Then Tuesday, least favorite game of the whole freaking season. Boilers travel down to Bloomington, 7 o'clock Eastern on Peacock. Will they be number one? I don't know.
I don't think so. I know, but if everybody loses,
you think UConn jumps? Unless they lose, I don't know if their schedule is this, but you think UConn jumps? I don't know. Actually, I can see Purdue getting knocked just because all the other teams lost by single digits, whereas Purdue ran out the gym. I could see them being penalized for that.
UConn plays Georgetown. Is not very good on Sunday, so that's probably a win. Are they playing? That might be their next game. They beat Xavier on last night. Yeah. So they're probably going to win out or win before that. I don't know. I mean, they have 2 losses, but one of those is to Kansas. So
yeah.
I feel like they do. That's why they always do. It's just if you lose, you fall down. It doesn't matter, even though Purdue clearly has a really, really good resume. And I think you had said Lenardi or someone posted that even if Purdue lost to Nebraska, they weren't falling off the one line. So
not even one line, the number 1 overall seed.
Okay.
He said, he'd put that day, even if Purdue loses today, they will not fall off the number 1 overall seed.
I think Purdue ends up at number 2. Now that I think about it, I think Purdue's number 2.
Yeah.
Just because you're right. I think UConn moves up. I think everybody else just falls back, and Purdue goes 2. Maybe Houston falls further. But
what's your prediction for the the game against the Hoosiers next Tuesday?
I think it comes down to the wire. I think Purdue wins by. I think IU has a 3 to tie that doesn't fall. So I think Purdue wins by 3.
Oh my God!
I don't know. I feel like Purdue.
Yeah.
I only watch IU occasionally just because you're usually complaining about it.
Yep.
So then I'll watch and I'll agree. I am not super impressed with them.
I'm not either, but I've seen.
But it's a rivalry
Tom
game.
Crean team.
So,
I've seen the early Tom Crean teams who had no business hanging with the Baby Boilers by 3 with time at the end. Verdell Jones misses a half-court shot that would have tied it.
That's what I mean. That's what I could see.
Yeah, they're going to play out
be close.
Yeah. I mean, they played Kansas really tough at home. That place is going to be rocking.
And I think when they come to Mackey, though, I think different story. I think Purdue.
I would agree.
Yeah.
The only thing that worries me is I know 2 years ago because he didn't play.
I thought that last year though. I thought that last year too though. So, but yeah.
2 years ago at Mackey, Xavier Johnson and Trace Jackson Davis absolutely worked Purdue with the pick and roll all game, and so that does worry me with Khalil Ware because he's athletic, he's tall, he's 7 foot, he can get up and get it. Obviously, but Edey's 2 years older now and better, so we'll see. But that does worry me.
And he's a lot more mobile now than he was 2 years ago.
It's true. Yeah. I think I'm pick Purdue. It's a close one. I think Purdue wins 74-68.
Okay.
My 6 at the end. They get a couple. It comes down. They start getting fouled. We hit our free throws, and then they miss a 3 or something, and all that.
Yeah.
That was a really good game. I mean, before we'll probably record sometime around this time next week.
I feel like you have to do one before the IU game, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround for us because we're so consistent. Before we get out of here, I want to thank our sponsors as always. First one being Mad Mush. They've been with us from the beginning. Glad to have them on board again. They do have a new pizza of the month. It is January, so this is the second time we've said it. It is Rage Against the Resolutions, as I was very sad last week when this happened because it was the same day at the news that Rage Against the Machine is no longer a band anymore. They're not touring anymore, so I was very sad to see this. But this pizza looks delicious. You got topped with ham, deli, cup and char pepperoni, salami, onions, pepperoni peppers, and mozzarella cheese, finished with a Parmesan and Romano cheese blend and an Italian aioli. Looks delicious. Obviously, if you order online or use the promo code BREAK5, you get $5 off any order over. Get $5 off any order over $20. If you're going to be going on campus this Saturday for the Penn State game, it gets over at 4:15. That's a weird time to eat dinner. Might as well hop on over to Mad Mush. Tell them we sent you. Get some cheese, get some pizza, get some beer. Enjoy yourself. And then we also want to thank the shop as well. They've been, I'm on my shirt, the drum. If you're watching us live, they've been doing their thing since 2011 when they started in a garage. Now they've got 2 retail locations. They've got one in Carmel, one in the Broadville area. They've got shirts for everybody if you're a Boilermaker, a Hoosier, Butler Bulldog, DePaul Tiger, Wabash. No, Wabash, not sorry. Do they have Wabash? I should probably check that.
Probably. I would say probably. They have a lot
Indiana
of things.
State, the second best team in the state, Indiana State Sycamores.
No, come on. Butler.
That's true. After last night, actually, I'll take that back. You gotta check Ken Palm. That's what it's determined by. If you looking to buy something online, they recently came out some new Purdue gear and some new Gene Katie line. If you go to the shopindy.com, use promo code Breakdown, you will get 25% off your first purchase. We're so glad to have the shop back again with us. They make great shirts, makes everybody happy. Glad to have Mad Mushroom on again, and this has been thanks for hopping on tonight, Andrew. I know you've got daddy duties to end the night. Any closing thoughts? So not really a whole lot going on with football. Nick Scorton went to Texas A&M. It was a complete shocker to everybody. Purdue names a special teams coordinator officially today. Justin Sims becomes a tight ends coach / analyst. He's not an official coach, it sounds like. He's 10 official assistant coaches. He's more of an analyst role, so it means he's got some limited duties, I guess, in terms of recruiting and all that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, promoted so it's cool to see those guys sticking around the program. Purdue's picked up 2 Georgia wide receivers in the portal, which I guess we'll kind of wait and see. It's always, the talent's obviously there. The production hasn't been there at Georgia, but obviously you're playing, against every other 5-star possible. And not a whole lot going on with football, as we'll continue to monitor everything going on. Obviously, the portal's closed, but people can still commit that are in the portal. Any closing thoughts?
No, just hopefully bounce back game on Saturday
and Tuesday. Let's go 2-0, and hopefully we're 2-0 by the next time we record. Beat the Lions, beat the Hoosiers, boiler up, hammer down, hail Purdue.